Hello. It's been a while.
How-
Couple months at least.
5 months. Has it been 5 months?
No, it's been...
Since
it has been 5.
May is when we did it. June, July, August, September, October. It's been 5 months. Hello.
It's been a busy 5 months.
Busy 5 months.
Lots of growth. Lots of testing.
Lots of
Feedback. Running around. Lots of things.
lots of things.
But yeah, we're here at the beginning of November. Second week of November. First week in November. And things are moving. We did 3 months of alpha testing with 8 people. And now we're about a month, 3 weeks in with our beta users of about 30 phones out in the wild.
Yeah.
So, very exciting. Things are growing, getting lots of good feedback, but that's what we're going to go into later. What else have we been up to?
We have, in addition to the phone, just been going through the ins and outs of what does building a well-functioning phone organization look like. It's building the software itself, which is what we're doing, but it's also figuring out where does the hardware come from, what does working with the team look like as the team gets bigger, and then what does a process look like, and then how do we move through a beta in a way that's efficient, that not only tightens up the product, but tightens up the process, which arguably is the harder part.
Yes.
Is all the organization that surrounds the phone itself.
It's a lot of the admin stuff that we don't enjoy doing.
Yeah.
That we have to do.
That's our weakness for sure.
Yeah. But it just goes to show, like, if you have that stuff in place, how much easier as we scale things tend to be. Because there's already systems put in place that help you succeed.
Yeah.
For example, right now, with all of the users being able to keep track of all the information that they're sharing with us, as far as good, bad, and the ugly feedback, being able to work consistently and have that in a reliable place where we can easily pull that up and look at growth and look at what's being said and look back upon it, that is important.
Yeah. One thing that we're learning too, to that end, is... You said it best. You said the best process is one that we follow. And same thing, the best tool is the one that we use.
Correct.
Like
Doesn't matter what that looks like.
Yeah. It can be...
Not HubSpot.
Yeah, not yet. Like, HubSpot is going to be good at it. Like, for example, we're looking at CRMs. And we were using spreadsheets to keep track of a bunch of people. And spreadsheets was... good for a minute, and then things started getting really, really disorganized.
Because everything was everywhere.
Yeah.
And different spreadsheets for different types of people.
Yeah.
As far as, like, leads, business connections, possible and stakeholder lists. Like, there was Excel sheets for everybody everywhere.
Yeah. And then when we started saying, okay, we need something a bit beefier to keep track of who we're outreaching to in terms of media influencers, how are we keeping track of people who are using the phone, leads for people who are using the phone. We were looking at a couple different things, and we had a few people do a lot of work into figuring out what's the best one. We thought at first HubSpot, but it was just a lot to wrap our brains around.
Yeah.
And then we were exposed to Airtable, which is kind of like a middle ground between spreadsheets and HubSpot. Through the generator program.
Correct.
We're like, all right, this is perfect, because it's the one that we're able to use because it's not confusing.
Yeah, it's simple to use because we're used to Excel sheets, so just finding how different things within Airtable work still within its own ecosystem, essentially, is quite a game changer when keeping track of everything.
Yeah. But taking a step back, and like we left off, we were going through the G Beta program, which was really great. It gave us a lot of intel onto what does starting a project at this stage look like, and what are best practices. How do you keep people informed in a way that people are expecting? But on our end, at that point, we were just getting ready to launch into our beta from our alpha.
I think we had 2 sales by the end of G beta.
We had 2 sales by the end of G beta. One of them was our partner, Dumb Wireless. And this is, I think...
Oh, so 3 sales.
3 sales.
3 sales.
The first lesson there was understanding, or we quickly learned that our operating system was ready to go, but the phones were not ready to go, and we didn't know that. We ordered the phones to put our operating system on,
Yes.
and it was the wrong spec, so we had to send it back.
Yeah.
And then we said, hey, can you send us this spec? And they're like, oh yeah, no problem. So they sent us 10 more phones, and they weren't the proper spec. And so we couldn't load the operating system on them. So we learned at that point, like, hey, sometimes it's the part that you think is going to be easiest, which turns out to be like your biggest bottleneck.
Yep. And sourcing phones on refurbished devices is hard enough. Sourcing good quality phones is marginally harder. And then finding good sourcing of good phones within a decent price point that makes sense,
Yeah.
even harder. So it's like all this stuff added together, it very much limited to what we could use and who we can use from.
Yeah, 100%. And the only way to find that out was by like Google searching, calling, emailing, and to me, the lesson learned was even if there is some part of our operation that we think is going to be easy, it's best to do the research and to get ahead of the issue and start the process way before it's needed, because, you know, we have, especially in a thing where we're doing something for the first time, we have no idea what the problems could be.
And it seems to be the same thing with developers, is like, it doesn't matter what people promise, it doesn't matter what people say. All that matters at the end of the day is the end product.
Yeah.
For example, the phones, they weren't the end spec, even though we were promised left and right that they were. At the end of the day, didn't work out. Same thing with a developer. We would get some developers, and they said they can do X, Y, Z and another. Come to find out, less than ideal and didn't work. So at the end of the day, it's finding reliable sources of truth and people and long-term relationships that we can build with for a lot longer. Like now, the refurbisher we've used for the past couple of months for, you know, this first set of phones for the 6s has been great. He's been
Really good.
reliable. He's pushing out good product. We just talked with him today. So being able to have that relationship, it's a lot easier to keep a relationship and keep working with him than a one-off trying to redo it over and over. Because then you're just doing the same research time and time again, starting that loop over.
Yeah.
So once you build a relationship of, you know, a reliable partner, no matter what sense, whether it's a distribution partner, whether it's, you know, a part of the team, a coder in the dev team, it doesn't matter. It's once you get the reliable source, let's try and stick with him as much as possible. So you don't have to redo the cycle over and over again.
Yeah.
Because that'll save you precious time.
Yeah. And, man, especially with stuff you know is tricky, even if I feel like the partner is like, hey, I'm going through a tough spot, I might need to increase my margin on these things for this batch. It's definitely you take care of them, they take care of you.
Correct.
So if you can do that for them, it'll be repaid in the opposite direction. And we've been also in our direction gotten a lot of goodwill.
100%.
For us, like even from members of our own team.
Yeah.
And I think that leading into the team part, good relationships with external stakeholders, but also developing good relationships with your own team. It's so important. It's so easy to take for granted the people you've already brought into the fold, but that also takes active effort and input.
Yeah. And it's like what we preached in the beginning, is trying to treat everybody right.
Yeah.
Whether it's the end user, whether it's our team, whether it's external stakeholders, whether it's people we're just buying up something from and, you know, utilizing it. Try and treat everybody right. And I find that being that we're more of a mission driven company, when we sit down and express the mission and things that we're trying to achieve and our long-term goals, people really resonated with that.
Yeah.
So they're willing to work with us.
Yeah.
And they're excited to work with us for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone wants to see everyone succeed.
Yeah. And having a mission and developing a relationship also give you that credit for when you mess up or something goes wrong. They're in a position to be able to extend an olive branch and offer forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because things will go wrong in a whole bunch of different ways.
Yeah,
and
100%.
To set ourselves up for success, relationships and being mission driven are so important to staying robust from the company's perspective, but also just from a human perspective. It's the only way to do things.
Yeah, and like no matter what you want to start, no matter what project you want to work on, if you treat people right and get people excited about what you're doing, they're willing to work with you.
Yeah.
They're going to do what they can to make things possible for you, because that in turn makes things possible for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a spot on team. But okay, so we had our product, we're ready to sell. Oh crap. Apparently the phones don't work. We finally found this supplier that we're working with now. Cool, we can start sending phones out. But at that point, once we figured that out, we're like, all right, great. Now we have the capability to fulfill orders. And we've done this market research to understand this is our type of customer. How, just to reiterate, what was the way that we did that? How did we do our research to find, hey, this is our customer, and this is where they are?
Well, it goes back to our market research and the initial steps that we took. One, it was Reddit for us. It's like, this is where the people resonated with the problem. You see people expressing that they have a problem and they're looking for something to solve their problem, was Reddit.
Yeah.
So specifically for us, it was r/dumb phones. So what made sense to us was, all right, go to the moderator. Go to, Jose, who's the moderator of r/dumb phones, and he is quite knowledgeable when it comes to the dumb phone network and ecosystem. So it just made sense to approach him and work with him. And I think having him from the beginning, we were able to get his feedback and kind of his point of view on stuff, thus helping us to implement, thus helping us speak to this initial group of beta users.
Yeah. Because
we just went where they hang out.
Yeah.
And the people looking for the solution hung out on r/dumb phones, and they watch, Jose's videos. So it made sense to try and build that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it definitely does come down to relationship too. Like we didn't just want, after we understood who our customer was, we didn't just want to go to Jose and be like, hey, can you shill this for us? Can you tell everyone about this? We wanted to more go to Jose and say, hey, we have this thing that, based on everything that your users are saying, we have this thing that might help solve their problem. What do you think?
Yeah.
And we're in the very, very early stages. We started out by just giving him the skin of the phone, just the launcher.
It was like the idea.
Yeah, it was
this is the idea where we're at. This is where we think we're going to go. Here's what we put together on Figma.
Yeah, on Figma. Try it out, man. What do you think?
Click through it.
Yeah.
And that's pre-launcher, I think, as well.
It was pre-launcher?
That was pre-launcher. That was just Figma prototype.
Yep.
And we clicked through it and said, this is what we envisioned. And it's kind of the same thing from idea to working MVP, was start with, for us it was like drawing on a note card, messing around on Figma some more.
Yeah.
Built a launcher with the help of a very small team, and then just started the reiterations of building that launcher out to where now we have a full OS, and now we have a working MVP that people are actively testing.
And Jose was with us basically that entire journey.
Yeah.
So when we went to Jose and said, hey, I think we want to take this to the next step, we want to put this in people's hands. Do you think you can help us with that? He said, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let me do a video for you, just say what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And through that video, he spoke the language of his audience.
Correct.
And so he was able to show what we had in a way that his viewers would understand. And
Mm-hmm.
through that, because of that relationship, we were able to fill up our entire beta.
Yeah. And it's just honestly, we're not shouting from the mountaintop saying it's perfect. It's anything but. It's clunky, like, it's messy. It's by far what we have in mind as far as end product goes. But it still solves the problem as it stands. As it stands as a product, it still could be considered like a dumb phone or a minimal phone.
Yeah.
And it's basically that already.
Yeah.
And just this extra functionality that we're putting on top of it, and that it does not well currently, but it's going to do well, is still solving all the problems of the users.
Mm-hmm.
And the problems that they're saying. For example, is I need email for work. Well, we're able to provide that in a very clunky manner.
Yep.
In a roundabout way.
Yep.
But it's there.
Yeah.
So we're able to start solving these issues that our initial testers are asking for. And that's what we're trying to solve with Sleke is what are the major roadblocks from people wanting to disconnect comfortably? How do we get people off a full-fledged smartphone comfortably and still offering them a certain suite of technology that can allow them to interact?
Yeah.
And that's only through market research of r/dumb phones and actually talking to the people using our phone, as well as working with very strategic people like Jose and Dumb Wireless. Is like, this is what people are saying that they need. So instead of us pretending and just throwing features and throwing problems to solve that we have no idea, we're actively listening to what people need in the phone.
To be honest, through this whole thing, the best advice that we've gotten, and it sounds trite, cheesy, but it's just watching the Y Combinator videos. Like, probably the best resource that we could have asked for starting out in terms of best practices, they just came from the Y Combinator library of videos. Like, all you have to do is watch the videos. That's all we did. And it's worked. It's really worked.
Cool.
So as that translates to doing our first ever beta, how are we operating it?
We're operating it very openly. One is staying in constant communication. We gave every single one of our beta users, they all have my personal phone number, they all have my email, they all have pretty much access to talk to me at all times.
Yeah.
So that is a huge factor. It's just making yourself open. And in addition to that, it's having pretty much set emails or contacts at least once a week with everybody. And that's just while stuff is fresh on the mind, they're able to share their thoughts of what's working, what's not working, what can be improved upon. And the best way to find out about that is be in constant communication with them.
Yeah.
So we keep building with them in mind for that reason.
You talked about being mission driven. It seems like a big part of beta testers' willingness to play the game, the early stage game, is that it's very clear through our mission and through our product that we are trying to help them with their biggest problem.
Yeah.
So they understand that. They understand that it's clunky, but they say, hey, this is solving a problem, and I am the type of person who wants to get in on the ground floor and help contribute to the solution of that problem.
Yeah. And we've already talked about this, I think, previously in a video, but you have the people who are willing to try a dumb phone out or a minimal phone, wherever you think we land. It's up for discussion. And then you also have people who are willing to try early stage tech, early stage phone tech, to be more specific. Both are already quite niche categories. And then you put those combined and it's even smaller. So having a very well curated small group of people we work with who understand the mission, who understand that the problem that is being solved and we are going for is crucial.
Yeah.
Absolutely crucial.
And I was a little worried at first, but they've been so understanding, forgiving.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, for sure.
And the biggest thing that I stressed in the onboarding for them is honesty.
Yeah.
And for us, it hurts. Like, we get a lot of, like, this is what's not working. This is what we need to improve on. I had to switch. I have to switch off the phone for this amount of time for XYZ reason. And we want that because the reason that they're switching off the phone to go to another device is the exact reason that we're trying to be able to build up to.
Yeah.
So we know what we know what the end goal is going to be for the phone. And it's just getting from where it's at now to where they feel comfortable using that as a solo device. And it's a lot of work.
It's been an interesting frame of mind, and I think an important one for us to understand the following.
Mm-hmm.
The more fatal the criticism is,
Mm-hmm.
meaning like, oh, this made me make it so that I can't use the phone.
Yeah.
The more dramatic the criticism is, the better it is for us, and the more exciting we get.
Correct.
Because if they're like, hey, the color's not quite what I want, it's like, cool, thank you for your input. We will address that.
When we have the ability.
We have the ability.
Which is soon.
Soon.
Thank you to our wonderful interns.
But also...
That's a little sidebar.
Oh, yeah, thank you, interns. But also, the interns are great. They're so good. They're awesome.
Way better than we could have ever expected.
Yeah. But also, if they're like, hey, this thing made me not use the phone. Hey, this is a fatal flaw. Then we're like, oh, thank you so much for telling us that.
Yeah.
We need to fix that immediately. That's priority number one.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of the beta, is they take the brunt of that force and then tell it to us very passionately, because the stronger they're
invested.
They're so invested.
They're invested in our success.
And it's annoying to them to have to switch off the phone. So it's I wouldn't call it pleasant for anybody, but it's productive and it's helpful for everybody.
Yeah. And full transparency, we had one of our users find a backdoor to the browser, and that's the whole thing. The whole bread and butter of what we're trying to avoid is access full-fledged to the internet, but having the ability for him to be like, look, I found this, and now we're working nonstop to try and prevent that from happening in the future. And that's the kind of feedback we need. We need that, like, oh, this isn't working here, we need to get this fixed.
Yeah. Like, what if we hadn't have found that?
Exactly.
We would have just released it as an airtight phone, and then some 12-year-old would have gotten it, and they're for sure not going to tell their parents they found the internet.
No.
And we've just totally failed in our mission. Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're going to get as brutally honest feedback as possible. And part of that is accepting the feedback as it lies. Like, yes, this is broken or not working right now, and I can't use it, but this is how you can fix it.
Yeah.
And this is what it's going to take for me to go back from this other device back to, what we're offering at Sleke. And a lot of it is small stuff, but that small stuff is what so many other companies have neglected to listen to their users on.
Yeah.
And I think that's one benefit we have is we are listening constantly to what our users are saying.
Mm-hmm.
And it does take a lot. I see why not many people have attempted this, because it's quite a big... Yeah. It's just a big challenge, and being able to take that on head on and constantly listen is difficult.
For example, another one is trying to log into business and university emails.
Yep.
And the way the authentication works, the way that we have accessing links right now, it allows for personal authentication. But for business and university authentication, it requires a full-fledged browser. And we weren't using a browser to view links.
Just WebView.
Just a WebView. And so we said, okay, we need to make a custom browser to view links that's similar to how we do the WebView. But it turns out a browser is an extremely complex application.
Yeah.
And it takes quite a lot of work, or at least takes some knowledge and specialization to be able to make modifications to a browser to get what we need. And that just shows like there is so much breadth to what we need to be addressing. We got to be on top of a lot of stuff.
And what helps us is the fact that I think that we're still not from this industry. Because if we try to approach it like, oh, we're going to create our own browser now, if we were like from the technical background, like you look at that and like that's a challenge within itself.
Yeah,
like there's no way you can tackle that. So just finding little workarounds that make sense and that are still going after our end goals.
Yeah.
And finding a way to achieve them, I think is crucial.
Yeah, everything has to be radically towards the end goal.
Yeah.
And there are a couple times where we're tempted, especially me, to stray and deviate from that path.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a time for experimentation, but then there's a time to like be very disciplined.
Yeah.
And especially during the beta where things are at their earliest and every decision is the most critical.
Yeah.
That's the time to be strict. That's like a biggest personal learning of mine.
Exactly. And I think it's going from the adjusted mindset to, oh, could we do this in the future? Could we do this in the future? Could we do this in the future? To our biggest stakeholder right now is the people testing the phone.
Mm-hmm.
They are the ones that we owe this whole project to, so we need to go after and tailor everything to their needs currently.
Yeah.
Because they're the one that took the biggest risk.
They put money down.
They put money down and they're willing, because they want a problem solved, and now it's our job to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And part of it is that honest feedback. And I mean, I was after one of the weekly updates I was doing. I could show you a laundry list of things that need to get worked on the phone, and this specific user was like, look, don't let all that get you down, because what you guys are doing is incredible and it's going to take work. And he's like, I'm being honest with you because this is what you guys want. And he's exactly right. Like, it's going to take a long time to get this to where we imagine this being.
Yeah.
It's going to be, it's going to be wild.
Yeah.
So they understand that it's going to take a while, but they're willing to work with it because they know the end goal that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they see that. And it's kind of a reality check for us. It's like, yeah, it's not where we want it to be right now, but it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Every day that we push on with testing and we push on with getting feedback and we push on with just development and push on with X, Y, Z and another is a step closer to the end product that we imagine.
When it comes to pushing on, like taking the feedback from the users and then putting it into some order to develop, that made us really confront the fact that we have to be extremely disciplined in what we build before something else, what we fix before something else, and then how we organize that into an efficient pipeline of development. Because at first, for the first couple weeks, there was just no order. There was no process of like, hey, this needs to get done, this needs to get done. Oh, I guess do this, or okay, maybe switch to this. And it made a lot of our team, especially the dev team, very like, hey, this is not how we do things.
Yeah. And
this was a big learning for us because we don't come from this world, and frankly, we probably could have done more research on how to execute something
process,
like this. And so because we didn't do our research, we had to do a trial by fire. And we had to say, oh, so this is the process we need. So we really have tightened up our hey, this is how things work. This is our flow from feedback to update of the devices. And we want to like stay with like military level discipline to that process, especially now. Otherwise things will get very chaotic.
Especially as we scale.
Yeah.
It's just going to get harder. And I think we're still not 100% on that process. Like the process has a long way to go. And it's just, what can we do to make it that much easier? All right. So we have all this feedback. What's a clear way that we can have it laid out on the table so we see exactly what we need to tackle next. Or, we just need things clear.
Yeah.
And that clarity will help carry us from one step to the next. And then especially as we scale and the team grows, that clarity will help them because they will know what's one is expected of them as far as process goes, and two, what to do at XYZ step of the process itself.
And then there's, I guess we can get into it in a different video, but just to touch on it briefly, the question of morale. When things start to get really busy, and sometimes there are moments that are more chaotic than others, you can get very tired, just mentally drained.
Yeah.
And so you got to wake up the next day and keep going.
Yep.
And so there has to be a way to lift each other up during that process and say, hey, we're 100%. All in this together, go
ahead.
That's it.
I was gonna say, and part of that was I was feeling it when, especially the first initial couple weekly interviews, you hear the same thing over and over. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This isn't working. This isn't working, and it's the same thing, because it's something that truly isn't working on the phone.
Yeah.
And on my end, listening to it, it's like, man, this isn't fun. I know it's broken, and it's, you want to be able to fix it right away. But looking at it from their the user's point of view, it's like they are just doing what we asked from them. However difficult it is for us, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
we are there to listen to the users, because, like I said, that's the fact that they're willing to take this risk is pretty incredible.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I would be willing to take a risk in trying a whole new phone. But then again, we're trying to face the problem, so we're on the creator side, so we're willing to work and deal with these bugs because we're the ones that have envisioned the solution to this problem. So we come to it from a different understanding.
Yeah. And then finally, just to touch on the topic of bootstrapping, this whole time we've been doing something called bootstrapping, where, if you're not familiar, bootstrapping is coming out of your own pocket completely.
Yeah.
Not your own pocket, because we've gotten a lot of help along the way.
And we've made sales. So
it's been a combination of a lot of stuff. So along the way, we've gotten support from friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
We've used money out of our own savings. We have gotten some revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people will tell you, when you're doing something like this, you have to not work through the whole thing.
Yep.
But the fact is, at the end of the day, it only matters if you get the thing done.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter how you do it.
Correct.
And giving yourself, in a perfect world, you're going to be able to devote your entire amount of time to it. But life is life and things happen.
Yep.
And so you need to be able to accept that things aren't always going to be perfect. And maybe you will have to get a side job. Maybe you have to get a part-time job. Maybe you have a family and you have to have a full-time job.
Yeah.
Cool. Do what you have to do. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is you get it done.
Yeah.
Don't let, during the summertime, we filled our beta, and we used our money doing a lot of development for early feedback and buying phones. Then we got to a point where we really had to cut our spending, and there was still requests coming in. We're like, okay, what do we do here? So the decision was made. We split up. You focus on the users. You focus on the process. I'll go hunting and gathering for some cash to keep us going. And there was nothing wrong with that arrangement.
No.
It makes it harder on both of us individually because we have to split up, and not having that teamwork and that camaraderie, you certainly take a hit from that.
Yeah.
But we are still here.
You realize it's what we have to do to stay afloat.
It's what we have to do, and so we did it. And we're still here now.
Yeah.
And
it's also, we're not pushing the hard times onto our users. We upgraded everybody from the 5 to the 6.
The Pixel 5 to the Pixel 6.
The Pixel 5 to the Pixel 6
Yeah.
that are willing to. That some of them didn't want that, and that's okay. But at the same time, monetarily, it didn't make sense on our end. But at the end of the day, we're serving our end users.
Yeah.
So for us, it was like a no-brainer. This is what we have to do. How are we going to do this?
Yeah. And then you find a way.
And then you find a way. And that's another thing that adding on top of it, just being mission-driven, it's like do things that don't necessarily make sense, but it's just for the good for the end user.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah. So, I think that if I could put the process of a beta in one word, I would say messy.
Yeah. Chaos.
Chaos.
Complete chaos.
But worth it. Like, one foot in front of the other wins the race. You know, and that's the tack that we're taking.
And it's worked thus far.
Mm-hmm.
And we found a way for it to continue to work. So we just keep pushing forward. We keep growing.
So that's the update. That's where we're at right now. And that's been our experience for the last 5 months.
Which is why we've been a bit MIA on the media side. It's just because we've been so focused on just working with our beta users and just working to survive. And it's been fun. It's, the most fun you'll ever have. But it's also the hardest thing you'll probably ever do.
Yeah.
So it's completely worth it. And we're going to keep moving forward.
Yep.
Failure isn't an option for us. We're just going to keep pushing.
I don't even know how to spell failure.
Yeah.
That was so cheesy.
I can't either.
Nope, sorry. No, just generally illiterate, though. Not just failure. It's all the words. Too tired to spell.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm excited to see what the next updates bring, because we don't even know what the next week is gonna bring, because things are changing nonstop.
Yeah.
And we have more exciting news to share coming up in the future.
Mm-hmm.
We have, just big stuff coming. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
We'll see you later.